Shout out to EA and the EA Creator Network for allowing me to bring you this information early. We're going to go into a deep dive of franchise, but it's going to be different than what you've seen before. We're going to break this up into multiple videos, giving you beginner, advanced, and intermediate tips to allow you to gauge how you want your franchise experience to be. Now, I've been doing this a long time, and I got a lot of little tidbits that will actually elevate the way that you handle your single player franchise or maybe your multi user franchise. Let's dive right in. All right, so you want to start your first franchise. Great. You're going to slide on down to enter franchise. It's going to give you a couple of options when you get in here. I already have one created, but you can create a new one. With this, you can search, and if you have one that's multiple users and they sent you an invite, you would choose to accept or decline your invite here. For the purposes of our video, we're going to hit here, create a new one. Playing offline, I don't recommend, right? It's not going to give you the best experience for a lot of different reasons. Number one, it's just slower simulation times, like it says. Number two, any changes or modifications that the devs may add or fix, like if there's maybe a glitch or there's an issue with files or anything that the devs could auto push, you would have to then turn around and start your franchise all the way over to get whatever new features or fixes they may send. I always recommend doing the online solo franchise. So click that. You're going to have a roster file, whether you've imported one or created or edited your rosters. Now, here's an opportunity for us to really speak on it. You cannot import a draft class from college football. Remember that. Draft class imports from college football no longer exist. Okay? All right, great. Glad we got that understood. Here is your team select option or menu. One of the cool things about this that I really want you to be able to see is that for the first time ever, they gave us this really sweet intuitive menu, giving you a list of your top players, the rankings that the team held in the previous NFL season, their division, their status is also something new. So you have some that are rebuilding, you have some that are playoff hopefuls, and then you have some that are championship contenders. I think that's really cool to be able to see and gauge what team and what status you're getting into right away. Okay. The other thing that I think is super cool is they have a dev breakdown. Now, we've never really seen this before outside of just how many X Factor or superstars, but now you can see how many hidden devs may be on the team, how many star devs are on the team, and how many normal devs are on the team. You also get to see their available salary cap. Okay, it's a very welcomed addition to the franchise mode, especially from us veterans. We're going to go ahead and choose the Bears. So here, you're going to see a couple of different options. Your league settings. And come in here, you can make it private or public. Name it, make the password is. If you want to allow cross-play in your league, which allows you to play with, obviously, Xbox Series systems and the PlayStation 5. What skill level, all pro, all Madden. If you want it to be simulation, competitive, or arcade. Competitive is going to be the most user driven. It's going to be the one where your stick skills and your abilities on the field with your controller are going to matter the most. Simulation are going to be ratings based. So depending on the ratings that the players have is going to really dictate how the play goes throughout the game. Arcade is just, we're here to have a ton of fun. Exciting highlight reel plays, no fatigue, no injuries, not too many flags, none of that. All right. You get to set the kick meter style. I don't know if this is for you or for your whole league. I haven't been able to test with a multi-person league yet. But that's a good question. I wonder if this sets it for you or the whole league. If you don't know the differences between the multimeter and the classic Madden meter, I actually put out another video. I'll link it right up here in the corner. You can click on that one and then it'll show you the difference between the kick meters. Quarter length, accelerated clock, play clock time, offensive play cooldown. Okay. So this is essentially to stop spamming. Okay. So if you've got, if you're going to play with additional users, and you don't want them to spam the same play over and over again, you can set this offensive play cooldown, which means they'd have to wait 5 offensive plays before they'd be able to call that play again. If you want to do that, or you can do a play limit, which means that once they've called this play, for instance, if they've called the same offensive play 4 times in a game, it would no longer be able to be used until they got into another game. Okay, so just give you a couple different options. So you have offensive and defensive cooldowns and limits. You can turn on and off the dynamic momentum and home field advantage. Season experience, I would always leave this to full control, and I would leave all of these to manuals. Okay, now managing the practice reps, you should leave it on auto. If you really want to get down to the nitty gritty and be more of like a coach simulation, you can put it to manual, but I'm just going to be honest with you, it adds a lot of additional time week to week as you set how many reps you want your players to have week to week. Okay, reorder your depth chart should always be on manual. We'll go over how you can do that. Auto progress players, you don't ever want to do that, because you want to be able to progress your players to match the play style that you want. Okay, so don't ever let the CPU auto progress your players. And then same thing with your talents. So any of your skill trees, your talents, we don't want those auto progressed at all. No. Pop-ups for tutorials, hey, if this is your first time, heck yeah, use those. That's going to be great. You definitely want as much help as you can get while you're going through. Okay, ball hawk, heat seeker, switch assist, controller play art, yeah, you want to keep those to individual. Everybody's going to have a different preference on how they play, so you don't want to mess with those too much. Trade deadline, whether or not you want it on or off. Enable all trades. You can either set it to only human trades if you don't have a full league. You can enable all if you want to be able to use both, or you can just turn trades off. Difficulty, this is relatively new. You can have very easy, which means that your CPU counterparts are going to accept everything. Very hard, which means they're pretty much not going to accept anything. Normal, from what we've seen in years past, actually gives us the most realistic opportunities. That's pretty much what you're going to see. They have increased the AI thought process on trades and player acquisition, so I'm really interested to see how we can test that out. Salary cap, easy, turn it on and off. It just means whether or not you have to operate your team within the National Football League's set salary cap. Again, it makes it more fun, less likely to get this super team if you have it on. Okay, free agent motivation impact, again, it's going to be the same thing. High, very high, low, normal, we leave it on normal. Practice squad stealing, if you're in a multiple, this one's interesting. It's a per person preference, right? What you need to know about practice squad members is they are technically free agents. In real life, practice squad stealing is available. Okay, so the Chicago Bears, can call the Tennessee Titans because they have a free safety on their practice squad that I now want to sign to my real roster for Sundays. That is legal in the NFL. If you guys want to truly prioritize development and things of that nature, have a discussion between your league. Maybe you turn practice squad stealing off, and that allows you to have a little bit more weight on the rookies that you're drafting all 7 rounds, right? Because maybe those guys 5 through 7, they don't get playing time this year, but you know you're developing them on your practice squad. And so then maybe they get that playing time in year 2 or maybe year 3, because most players have 2 years eligibility on the practice squad. All right, it's a conversation to have. Relocation settings, totally personal preference. Staff talent cost modifiers. Now, you can do this fast, which means that you are going to earn a ton of points for whatever the XP goals are throughout your games and things of that nature. You can do slowest, which means you're going to earn, I believe it's slowest is, it's like 3 times, I think. So now you'd need, I think the average starting point is around 20. So instead of 20, you'd need 60, right? That's crazy. Okay. Slow is 2 times. So you'd need 40. or I'm sorry, slower is 2 times, so you'd need 40. Slow is 1.5 times. So if you're at 20, you'd need 25. And then normal is just a 20. Fast would then be 10 for easy math, right? Injuries, practice injuries, pre-existing injuries, progressive fatigue. Progressive fatigue is similar to wear and tear. They are not the same, but they are similar. So if you played college football this year, it is similar to wear and tear. It means that those players of yours, if they play 50, 60 snaps a game, that is going to catch up to them come week 13, 14, 15, okay? So it's something to think about whether or not you want it on or off. Again, speak about it with your league mates and make a decision there. Prospect storylines, leave them on. Draft presentation. All right, let's have a real good conversation about this. Is it cool that they added this full-on real-life experience to the draft presentation? Yes, it is. If you are in a if you're in a 20-plus person league, definitely think about limited or none. And the only reason why I say that, this is phenomenal if you've got 4, 5, 7, 10 of your buddies and you're just chilling, okay? But if you've got all 32 people, from what I noticed when I was testing, they will give you a presentation for all 7 rounds, okay? So think about that. 32 picks, 7 rounds. A player is walking across the stage, potentially. A player is seen at home, celebrating, depending on the caliber of what the game dictates, whether or not they were a higher overall or maybe you drafted a gem. It is great, and I love the presentation. I love the immersion, but I just think for right now, if you have like a double-digit user league, you're going to want to think about limited or none, okay? Real talk. Draft timer, it dictates, it predicts the time that you have each round to make your pick, all right? I also recommend you leave that on, personally. Fantasy draft order, if that's how your teams are going to be set, it's through a fantasy draft to start the league. You can choose standard or snake. I think snake is the better option than standard, because standard means that you're giving the first pick to a team every single round, right? So they get the first pick. Whereas if you do snake, the person that had the 32nd pick will then have the first pick, okay? So 32nd pick of round 1 now has the first pick of round 2, versus the first person that picked first in round 1 is now going to pick first in round 2, also picking first in round 3, so on and so forth. Free agent negotiations on stage 1, you can set these based on, again, how many users you have and how strict or not strict you want to be about your free agency. Stage 1 is 5, 10, unlimited on stage 3. League type, all, which is perfect. You can do a coaches only league if you'd like. If you're worried about anybody being a owner, owners just have additional access to set the cost of like your ticket sales and your what's the word I'm looking for? Concessions. That's it. Ticket sales, concessions, rebuild stadiums, relocations, things like that nature. Coach firing. I always think it's fun if you have it on. It adds another level of spice to these games and whether or not you're winning or losing, because the last thing you want is to show up and see the headline in an off season that your boy's coach got fired or you got fired. I mean, it would. I don't know if you guys be chirping in your league threads, but we would be chirping in ours. And I'm definitely always an advocate for coach firing. I think it's great. Career clocks. So career clock scenarios will trigger for your league. This is just meaning that when it comes time for guys to be retiring, right? When it comes time for guys to be retiring, those scenarios will play out and they will let you know that they're retiring, which I think is nice because prior to, it was just a screen in the offseason about all the people that retired, and there was really no heads up about it at all. I think this is a nice add, a nice touch. Your breakout scenarios, you want those on because you obviously want your players to go ahead and progress. Dev trait regression is always the talk of the town. Always the talk of the town. You know, is 35-year-old Khalil Mack still a superstar at 37? You know, and that's ridiculously long amount of time. But let's do more of a quarterback, right? Like, is 27-year-old Joe Burrow going to be as good as he is now? Maybe even better, or could he be worse by 37, right? And if you're worse, should you be holding up a dev trait? That's a conversation between you and the mates. I am 50-50. It truly depends on what the purpose of the league is and how we're going about it. But just know that you can turn it off. So if a player has a terrible year or a player is aged out, those are the two ways that you can have dev trait regressions. They either have a really, really piss poor year or compounded piss poor years, or they age out, right? You can have players that age out of dev traits as well, okay? Desired X Factor dev players have a maximum of 75. Superstar players can have a maximum of 100. Star players have a maximum of 500. Okay, that's how many you can have in your league total. Superstar abilities, you can turn those on and off. If you don't love the abilities, you can turn the abilities off. However, getting players to still dev up means that they're learning and earning those XP goals faster, right? So in training camps and just in game overall from week to week, they are still progressing better. So those attributes are still going up even if they don't have abilities. So your dev traits still matter regardless of if the superstar abilities are on or not, okay? Ability to edit controls. You can have it set to commissioners if you're concerned about certain cocktails or anything like that. Or you can just, any player that's on the team can go ahead and edit the abilities of their players, okay? Minimum roster sizes, in-season player movement limits, player overall cut restrictions, off-season player cut limits. All of this means, do you have to have a minimum of 46 players on your roster at all times? You can move players as much as you'd like throughout the season. There are no restrictions, okay? So like, if you want to cut someone that is 99 overall or whatever, like if that's how you feel because it's going to be best for your team, so be it. If you have someone that you're concerned about, they might roster dump or something, you know, something egregious like that, you can set these restrictions, okay? Off-season player cut limit, again, 10 players, 8 players, no cuts. You can do it however you set and feel your league can run. Fill roster, turn that off, okay? If you have, especially if you have multiple users in the league, you want this setting off. You don't want the computer automatically signing free agents. Yeah, that's that. Using a custom coach, again, it's totally up to you. It is cool. You get 2 options here. These options will give you different starting points in your talent trees. So the team builder will give you the first talent in the head coach player growth talent tree. And then the backstory gives you the first talent in the head coach staff modifications talent tree. I am a big proponent for the staff builder. Biggest reason being is that when you build your staff, you start to get extra coach points, franchise points, I believe they're called now. The franchise points are phenomenal, right? The more franchise points you get, the more XP you can unlock for your team, okay? So just remember that. The more franchise points you can unlock, the faster that you can unlock franchise points, the faster and the more XP you will have to disperse throughout your team. So I always typically start with the staff builder because it's going to give me to those XP opportunities faster than the team builder will, right? The team builder's cool, but I promise you, if you build your staff first, the team will follow faster after, if that makes sense, all right? So So you can change your role, whether or not you want to be a coach or an owner. Yep, see, there's the difference. The owner has the opportunity to rebuild and relocate, set prices for everything you sell, and get feedback from your advisors. The coach signs, relocate your team still if you'd like, earn XP and staff points, and then progress your players and staff, right? Your starting point. Again, if you're starting with a multi-user league and you want to try to even the playing field and do more of a hodgepodge, you do the fantasy draft. Think of it as the same way as you would fantasy football, right? Every player is then dumped in the pool and it randomly selects what number you and your buddies will be, and that's how you draft. You can start right at the beginning of the regular season, which would be week 1. So it would be Bears versus Titans in Chicago. Or I could start in the preseason, which we just watched would be the Hall of Fame game, the Bears versus the Houston Texans in the Hall of Fame game. So every time you start a franchise, you're going to have those 3 options, which will be the beginning of your team's specific preseason, regular season, or the fantasy draft. And then you'll go into the preseason after the fantasy draft. All right, that's it on this one. It's a great introduction on how to begin your franchise. We're going to jump into the preseason, and I'll see you in the next video.